Um, so I'd like to welcome you all to the WMU Global Engagement Programs webinar. Can you all hear me well?
Okay. Yep, I think we can hear you pretty well.
Okay, great. Well, as you all know, global engagement is, I'd have to ask you to mute your mics because I can hear some echo. Or our host can do that. Our host can mute the mics. Thank you. As you all know, global engagement is one of three pillars, of the main three pillars of Western Michigan University. We are learner-centered, we are discovery-driven, and we are globally engaged. And WMU has a long history, and this you might not know, that WMU has a long history as a leader in global engagement. We are at the forefront and have been at the forefront of international partnership development for decades now. And we developed one of the first curriculum articulation agreements with an international university over 30 years ago. And we also are at above national averages for international enrollment and also for study abroad ratios. So by any standard, we are a very globally engaged, internationalized university. Now we're here today to talk about our two global engagement programs, our 4-year global leadership program and our recent 2-year version, the global collaboration program. Now, being the parent of two current college students, my question from a parent's perspective, which probably replicates the question in the mind of some of the students watching this webinar, is why should you enroll in WMU's global engagement programs? Or even, why do these programs exist? Well, global education involves learning about those problems and issues that cut across boundaries and about the interconnectedness of systems, ecological, cultural, economic, political, and technological systems. Both the business world and the government and government organizations throughout the world call for global education. I'd like to just briefly mention, quote, two very important statements. One by the managing director of Goldman Sachs, Stephanie Belrose, quote, preparing today's students for success and eventual leadership in the global economy is the single most important task facing US education. If young Americans are to take on challenging global leadership roles in the future, they must possess a deep understanding and appreciation of other cultures, geography, history, and languages. Again, this was the managing director of Goldman Sachs. Often we see internationalization discourse connected with national security discourse. So I brought here another quote that I particularly like from the former director of the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, and also former Secretary of Defense in the previous administration, who said, quote, it is crucial to our intelligence mission to have people who understand the world that we live in. So the global engagement programs provide learning opportunities for students to deepen their understanding of global issues, develop leadership skills, and to foster cross-cultural perspectives. In your first year, global engagement students are introduced to the initial steps of the global education program's curriculum by select faculty members who teach our freshman courses. Alongside global learning also is about leadership, and leadership is vital because organizations take on the personality of their personnel. Leadership training and development can help shape a positive organizational culture and promote civic engagement, including global engagement. Therefore, we provide the tools to develop and improve your leadership skills during your sophomore year. We also know that you have to experience the world. And so we have in our program, we have included in our 4-year program 3 global engagement international experiences. Now, these are all important, but they're not about the destination. They're about a new way of seeing things, because coming back to the same place is not the same thing as never having left. Finally, as seniors, you'll have the opportunity to participate in capstone projects. And even before seniors, you actually start participating in these projects long before that in your 2nd year. And for our 2-year program, that's the most important part of your 2nd year, the most of your 2nd year. So going back to the initial question, why do we have these global engagement programs? Why do they exist? Well, we need leaders and entrepreneurs to shape progress toward innovation, technologies, civic and cultural engagement. We must try to expand the boundaries of human wisdom and perception to follow not where the path may lead, but where there is no path. And if this was true 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we now, I think, all agree that the pandemic completely pushed us into this not being an option, but being the way we have to live. So these programs model the future of education. And that is why I wished I could have enrolled in this kind of program when I was in college 253 years ago. And that is why I strongly encourage you to join us in the global engagement programs. I'd like to allow our participants today to introduce themselves. And so I'd like to give the mic back to Corey Force, who's on our management team.
Thank you. So we are lucky to have several participants in global engagement programs with us today. So we'd actually love to invite them to introduce themselves first and talk just briefly about their experience in the global engagement programs. So we have 2 students from our 2019 cohort, so students who came into the program last year, and then 1 student from our 2018 cohort. So he came in the first edition of the program. So, so why don't we give respect to age, Nick, and have you chime in first, and go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of talk about when you came into the program, and what you feel like you've gotten out of the program so far.
Awesome, sure. My name is Nick. I'm in the 2018 cohort, so like the inaugural one, like Corey was saying. Basically, so we've gone to Lisbon, a couple cities throughout Portugal, and then this past year for fall break, I went to Ireland, pretty much all of Ireland. It's been a great experience, and all the classes I've taken have been great too. So I'm sure we'll get more into that later in the PowerPoint, so I don't need to spoil anything. But it's just been a great program, and it's really opened my eyes to a lot of things, especially involving leadership and globalization. That's good.
Thank you, Nick.
Cool.
Okay, well let's switch over to Jaden and Gianna. Alphabetical. Gianna, do you wanna introduce yourself and talk a little bit about when you came into the program and what you've gotten out of it so far?
Hi, so I'm Gianna and I'm in the 2019 cohort, and I as an incoming freshman studied abroad in the Dominican Republic, and it just kind of really opened my eyes to like even thinking about studying abroad. So I heard about the program through friends that were joining it, and I was able to thankfully join late. So we just went to Portugal right before everything happened with COVID, which was an insane experience in itself. But I've had just such a great time in the program so far, just working with peers who like are totally different than me, but like how we can work together and like understand different cultures and perspectives. And I've just really enjoyed my time, and I know that it'll be great for like my major. I'm journalism and global and international studies, but there's other like every major this program is great for, from like business to like art to music. Like we can all like use this in our lives, both personally and professionally. And I think so far it's been great, and I can't wait to continue on with the program and meet new friends and just have fun.
Thanks, Gianna. Jaden?
Hi, my name is Jaden. I'm the same year as Gianna. So I joined the program because actually back in February, before like I even like heard of the program, I got an opportunity to like sit down with like a bunch of human rights leaders from like around the world, down here in San Diego, and like just talk about what they're doing in their own countries. And then that kind of really like opened my eyes, and I was like, wow, there's like a lot going out there that I don't know. So like a week later, like I heard about this program, and I just like knew I had to apply. And so then I applied, and then now I'm here, and it's been really great. Yeah, like I love it. I like traveling and seeing like other countries. My thing's really music. So when we went to Portugal, I got to hear like the different like types of music. I heard like fado music, which is really cool. And then we went to like the recording studio, and I was like, I don't know, it was just really cool to like see different cultures and seeing what they're doing like with one like thing. I don't really know. But it was just really cool, and I like this program, and all the people I met are really cool, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jaden. So those are the three participants we have on the call with us. So if we can go ahead and take a minute and continue with introductions. We've got a lot of other individuals on the call. So when we talk about the global engagement program through the Haencike Institute, we have, kind of what we think about as a management team. So you've got people like myself, who are behind the scenes and helping the programs happen, logistically. And then we've got some very important individuals, in the faculty of our campus, who are doing things like helping deliver the content, leading the study abroad programs, and really, kind of forming the meat and potatoes of the program itself. So if we could start there, we have three professors here with us today. If we could start with Nancy, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself, and kind of what role you've played in the program so far?
Sure, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Nancy Bjorklund. I am an instructor in the Global and International Studies program, and this will be my fourth year teaching actually at Western Michigan University. In addition to my teaching, I am the director of continuing education for our medical school. So I'm between campuses, downtown and then campus as well. But part of my role in this program is I have been teaching the Global and International Studies 2000 course, but starting spring semester, it'll be Globalization and International Studies 3500, which includes the integrated study abroad component into our coursework. And so I am the faculty member that have taken the last two cohorts of students to Portugal, and we'll do so again in spring of 2021. I'm really looking forward to it. Right now, we are scheduled to go over Western spring break, although with any sort of travel restrictions, we can also alter those travel plans to later in that semester. But when we're in Portugal, just to give you a little taste of what we're going to be looking at and how I'll incorporate our time in Portugal with the actual curriculum of the class. We're going to take a look at things like the globalization of energy and technology, renewable energy, alternative energy, those issues. And then we'll kind of hone in a little bit while in Portugal, looking at the Portuguese wave and wind farms. We'll also visit a smart city, which is on the electric grid, how they're conserving energy. And we'll also look at things like environmental globalization, so global climate change and ocean policies. And then while in Portugal, we'll visit like a small fishing village and discuss with local fishermen kind of the impacts on ocean policies, look at Portugal's maritime zones, those types of things. So just to give you a little idea of how, what we'll be studying in the classroom next spring, and then how I'll introduce those topics while we're in country. So I'm very much looking forward to working with all of you. And certainly if you ever have any questions about the class, my name is in the Western's catalog of email. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to be there for you. Thank you.
So much. And so a professor that you'll work with in the second year of the program. Eric, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Archer. I am an associate professor in the Department of Educational Leadership, Research, and Technology, also an allied faculty member in the Global International Studies program. My teaching and research is related to global leadership and internationalization of higher education, and then diversity and inclusion in higher education broadly. And so, as Corey mentioned, I have worked with the Global Engagement Programs through the Haencike Institute to provide a course in the second year, which I think we'll have time to talk about a little bit later. So I'll hold off on some of the things that are related to the course until that time. I also I'm a faculty director for a study abroad program to Singapore and Malaysia. So I take students to Singapore and Malaysia, predominantly graduate students, because my area is mostly a graduate master's and PhD area. But I will also mention that starting in the fall, we are going to be offering a new undergraduate minor in leadership for social change. And so that might be of interest to some students in the global education programs as a complement to your major and sort of what you're getting in the global education programs. And the course that is part of the global leadership program in the second year is also part of that minor. So there's some sort of synergy there, and hopefully some students might be interested in that. And I'll talk more about that social change leadership model later. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So the next person we'll ask to introduce themselves is someone who's going to end up kind of doing both. He will be an instructor in your first year of the program, but he also kind of works behind the scenes in the Haencike Institute. Amir, would you like to say hello, introduce yourself, and kind of what things that you do in the program? And Amir, it actually looks like you're still muted. So if you go ahead and unmute yourself really quickly. Amir, it looks like we're maybe having trouble hearing you. Well, while Amir troubleshoots his sound, why don't we go ahead and as you might know, if you tuned into webinars previously in the year, I am Corey Forrest. I'm the marketing manager in the Haencike Institute for Global Education. So I work heavily in the program on the management side, alongside my coworker Annette Cummins. So Annette, did you want to introduce yourself quickly and maybe talk about what we do kind of on the back side of the invisible side of the program?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Annette Cummins, and I'm the business manager at the Haencike Institute for Global Education. I'm also in charge of special programs within the Haencike Institute and co-manage this program with Corey. That entails liaising with the instructors of the courses that are part of the program, working on application processes and having students commit to the program. It also involves logistics around planning the travel and getting everyone airfare and flights booked and transportation to the airport and all of the things involved with the travel components of the global leadership programs. And also working with Amir along with his duties as it relates to the management team.
Thank you.
It's like Amir might have sound again.
Oh, great. Yep, I was going to see if Amir is able to chime in.
Oh,
Nope, I'm not. I don't think we do. Amir, we might maybe need a reboot. I don't know if that would help. Maybe turning off and turning back on again. All right. Well, Amir, when you do feel like you have it fixed, just go ahead and chime in and stop me, and then we'll switch over to you. Okay. So as Annette was saying, Amir does work in the Haencike Institute for Global Education. So Dr. Amir Hassan is the International Programs Development Coordinator. And so he does kind of both things. He helps us work behind the scenes to make the programs run logistically, but he's also the instructor for the GIS 2000 course, which will be the first course you take in the fall series. And so as you come into the program in the fall, that's your professor for the fall course. And if you already have completed the process of registering for the program and committing to the program, you would have already started getting emails from Amir, who is checking in on you, letting you know updates for the program, getting you ready for the class, that type of thing. So so why don't we go ahead and move on? And again, when Amir comes back in, we'll ask him to introduce himself and say hello.
Corey, you're muted.
Thank you. Am I back? Am I back? Yes. Okay. Sorry. I was trying to move the PowerPoint and I muted myself instead. So we'll move on to the quick overview of the program, just as a reminder. So we are talking about two different programs inside the Global Engagement Series. On one hand, we have the 2-year program called the Global Collaboration Program, and then the 4-year program, which is the Global Leadership Program. The programs really diverge at that 2nd year point, where the Global Collaboration Program will focus very heavily on finishing out the collaboration perspective of global engagement, and then the Global Leadership Program will focus much more heavily on the leadership side of global engagement. Okay. And as you know, as you've seen and kind of read in the materials, that 4-year program involves a long-term study abroad in the 3rd year, and then finishing that global collaboration project in the 4th year. And remember that that 2-year program can easily transition into the 4-year program after either the 1st year or the 2nd year. So I know I've had many students interested in that 2-year program because it does allow for the path into the 4-year program if you decide, you know what, I do want to do that 4 years. Does anybody have any questions about the program structure before we move on? And what we're going to do is we're going to give Eric and Nancy and Amir, if he's able to join us back, opportunities to talk about what the program actually looks like and what their course content and structure looks like in each year. But should I pause for a moment? Does anybody have any questions? Oh, and Dr. Zagallo Melo would like to add a quick comment about the 1st year.
Thank you, Corey. I just wanted to mention that in the 1st year, the curriculum is fully integrated. So actually, Dr. Björklund is responsible for the overview of the curriculum, and for that 1st year, for the Global Challenges year. And so that curriculum is fully integrated, so that what you're taking in the 1st year, even the teaching, but I'm sure she will explain that even the teaching is somewhat integrated, so that there's almost a seamless transition between what you're doing in the 1st semester and the 2nd semester. Thank you, Corey, but we can move on to the instructors, of course.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's.
Hey, Corey, I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
So can the 4-year program be done in like 3 years, or would that be too difficult?
That's a great question. Thank you, Hannah. So we do have students actually who are on a 3-year track for the 4-year program. I know Gianna, I don't know, Gianna, if you want to kind of talk about some of the discussions we had. Gianna was considering the 3-year track.
Yeah.
It can be done. It looks a bit expedited. So if you do think that the 3-year track is what you are going to be doing at WMU, the key would be talking about it really up front and mapping out what that would look like in 3 years. Gianna, did you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, sure. So I was like an incoming freshman this year, but I came in with like more than a semester of credits. So I knew that it was a big possibility that I could graduate maybe a semester or a year early, but I still wanted to do this program. So I went in and talked to Corey about it, and I just had to basically go on the fast track for it, which is completely fine if you're able to like handle it. Everybody's really willing to work with you. You just have to start your like global capstone like a year early, but I mean, so far there hasn't been any issues, and it's been a pretty attainable goal, and I'm excited to do it in 3 years.
Thanks, Gianna. And we, you know, what our mantra is that this program really isn't meant to make you do extra work through your program, right? It's not a program that sits aside of what you're already doing at WMU. It's a program that integrates and augments what your goals are at Western Michigan University. And so we work really hard to make sure that the program can adapt and mold to whatever trajectory you're on here at WMU. So we do have that 3-year option, and then you know what it does look like is like we did with Gianna. We'd sit down individually and kind of talk about what you're doing each semester, and take those components and reassign them based on how they would fit in 3 years for you. So that's a great question. Do any more questions about the program overview before we go into kind of letting the professors talk about each year? Okay. And it looks like we do have Amir back. Amir, do we have your sound? Amir, I'm not able to hear you. Okay. Well, Amir, you keep troubleshooting. We can introduce you for you. We'll keep moving on. But Amir is actually, as I said, the instructor for that Introduction to Global Studies Global Engagement course in the fall semester. So as you move through that registration process, again, you'll be seeing emails from Amir who'll be reaching out and talking about the course content. As he continues kind of troubleshooting, we'll throw it back to him to talk a little bit more about what the course looks like. Amir, I don't know if you have headphones. Maybe that might help. Might be a new thing to try. But while we again let Amir continue to troubleshoot, why don't we switch back to Dr. Bjorklund to talk about the spring course of the program. And I know, Dr. Bjorklund, you talked about it a little bit. So if you have anything to add or any ways that you'd like to expand.
Sure, not a problem. And I can also just touch base briefly on Amir's course because I'm helping him. We're working collaboratively with the 2000 level class, which he'll be teaching in the fall, and then how that integrates into the spring semester course. And so hopefully he'll be able to get his microphone working here shortly. But as just kind of an overview of the 2000 level class, it's an introduction to global studies or globalization. And so you'll be looking at you'll be having like a broad view of how globalization has affected the world. And the plan is to look at specific topics of globalization, like I had mentioned before, like energy and technology, culture, the environment. Obviously, you look at human rights, global like health issues in terms of pandemics, health services, the use of alcohol and tobacco, the migration of people, the globalization of education. I mean, the list goes on and on. Just about every large topic you can think of has been affected by globalization. And so he'll be covering that in depth at a very broad view in the 2000 course. And then from there, spring semester in the Global and International Studies 3500 class, then we'll start narrowing down a little bit in terms of if you're looking at that energy and technology in terms of renewable energy or alternative energy, I'll have you do some course readings, either synchronous, asynchronous teaching. Would love to be able to have opportunity to meet in the classroom with you throughout the semester. But then based on those readings, what you will take from that, from those readings, we will then translate to a very specific topic in Portugal, like their wind farms. So then we will have guest lectures on wind farm use. What are they doing in terms of renewable or alternative energies? Then we'll actually go visit a wind farm. So it's more taking everything from the 2000 level where you're looking at the major issues of globalization to bringing it down to something more specific in the 3500 course and then actually applying it while we're in Portugal. And then when we're actually in country, we'll be doing a lot of educational programming in terms of lectures and site visits based on the readings that you'll have both fall and spring semester. but we'll also be doing some cultural tours of like historic landmarks in Portugal. We'll visit some key export industries like the cork and plastic productions. And obviously you'll have an immersion experience in the language, food, and culture. So we've got a lot of educational components to cover, but there's a lot of learning and fun to be had as well. And so I think Nick, Gianna, and Jay have all kind of attested that they've learned a lot in terms of the program, but then also the experiences that they've had from studying abroad that they can translate back into the classroom and their learning. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is, I think, when we talk about this program, so one of the questions that Annette and I often get asked is, well, how is this program really that different from study abroad? And a lot of it is exactly what Dr. Bjorklund is saying is taking these lessons from the classroom and being able to apply them abroad and then in other areas of life. And so I wonder
Sorry,
if,
can I say one more thing, Corey?
oh yeah, yep, of course.
Sorry, and then I meant to say when we get back from Portugal, what happens in the classroom is then I try to bring all of that experience together, what you've learned in the fall semester, what you've learned in spring through your readings, our site visits, our guest lectures, and how is that, how does that change your view of the global issues that we've been looking at? Has it changed your view? And then also it's transformative for my students who have had this experience to see how much just that experience has changed them. What they thought they knew, they realized I got them out of their comfort zone a little bit to sort of push their learning even further. So that's kind of the wrap up at the end of the semester after we've returned. I'll still meet with you end of the semester and try to bring all of that information and education together for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Jay, Gianna, and Nick, do you all have any additions that you want to make about, kind of how Dr. Bjorklund's course was set up, how, kind of integrated that study abroad was with classroom components and then doing things in the real world abroad and then bringing them back to what you're doing at WMU?
I think that my favorite part of going to Portugal and just that experience with that course was just like being able to learn from people like within a profession like firsthand and being able to go to all of the places and like not only read it in a textbook or in an article, but be able to go and experience it and be able to ask questions and like be curious, which is just I love like the hands-on experiences. It really has like made me learn so much more compared to like reading it from a textbook in high school or any other course. So I think it's a really, really great and rewarding experience.
I was also just going to mention too the versus like you don't have to be a specific major. You can be any major, have any interests, and there's always something for you with this program, no matter where you go. So you can be you could be an engineer or anything that you think maybe I can't study abroad, but we have an engineer in our cohort, so it's actually working out really well.
Nick and Gianna, yeah, and those are great comments. And I think the major comment is a great comment as well, because the best form of this program is having a student from every single major, so that you can learn from each other. Because one thing that we forget about when we talk about working cross culturally is that we need to be able to work with people in different countries and speak different languages, but we also need to be able to work effectively with people who are in different professions than we are. And so this program does a really good job at exploring problems from lots of different angles and figuring out how a multimedia arts technology major and an engineer can work together on the same problem. Okay, well, why don't we move on to year 2? And if I could ask Dr. Archer to talk about the approach to year 2 on the global leadership side of the program, we can ask him to talk for a couple minutes about that side.
Sure, be happy to. So in the second year, the course that students will take is in the fall semester. It is EDLD 3020, and it's leadership and advocacy for a diverse society. So in this course, we talk about how we can leverage our leadership practice for change and advocacy. And so the foundation of the class is on the social change leadership model. And there are a couple of different components to that: consciousness of self, congruence, commitment, collaboration, common purpose, controversy with civility, citizenship, and change. And so through the course, what we want to do is talk about leadership as a couple of different things. So leadership is socially responsible. It impacts change on behalf of others. Leadership is collaborative. Leadership is a process and not a position. Leadership is inclusive and accessible to all people. Leadership is values-based, and community involvement or service is a powerful vehicle for leadership. And so some of the topics that we'll talk about in this course is sort of making sure we're on the same page about leadership theory and concepts. And so I think it's a nice way to take some of the experiences you have in your first year, because you're all leaders, you know, whether you have a class or not. And so in that first year, you've had some experiences, you've you know, traveled abroad, and so then we can start talking in the second year about some leadership theory and concepts, and how maybe some of the things that you've seen and what you've been doing, how they fit with our understanding of leadership. So we'll talk about leadership theories. We'll talk about how to leverage the social change model of leadership in all of our areas of expertise. So again, doesn't matter what major you're in, everyone has the potential to be a leader in their own field. We will look at global leadership in this course. So we'll talk about what global leadership is and how it's similar and different to sort of leadership in a domestic context. We'll talk about change leadership. So how can we be change agents in the different areas that we have influence over? And then some of the assignments we'll do will be some activities related to the social change model. So these different aspects that I mentioned earlier. We will look at a global social movement. So we'll do some analyses of some global social movements. So students will be able to choose sort of a you know, movement and look at sort of the aspects of the social change model related to that global social movement. And then a culminating piece will be a service learning project. So we'll have students engage in service learning and application of this social change model through that practice. So for the fall, I'm working on, you know, some ideas related to that, but in the future, that will be a sort of a strong component is the service learning piece. So I'm happy to answer any other questions about that if people have them, but that's sort of an overview of what that course looks like.
Thank you, Dr. Archer. And Nick, you didn't take the course with Dr. Archer, but you did take a course in the spring focusing on global leadership. Do you have any comments kind of on that course and what that looked like for you?
So you're talking about my most recent course, right?
Yeah, yep. You took it with Professor Bates.
Kate Bates. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting course. It was pretty fun. We had to volunteer and stuff for us. So that was really good to experience that. But I enjoyed it. It was a night class too. I don't know if, you know, because the scheduling was kind of difficult to like figure that all out. But it ended up being a pretty fun course, pretty low key. It wasn't anything too strenuous. So if anybody's worried about that, don't worry. The classes aren't going to destroy your GPA or anything. They're fun, interesting classes. And if you can keep taking them with your cohort like I do, or at least members of your cohort, you kind of form really close relationships with them from studying abroad and everything. So you're kind of like taking a class with your friends. And that's what makes it probably the most enjoyable.
Yeah, and we really work hard to make sure that they're courses that aren't meant to, again, to kind of derail what you're doing at Western Michigan University, but enrich what you're doing and help you learn, you know, kind of applicable real world skills. And so the courses often feel a lot different than the courses that you go and sit in a lecture hall and then just take exams from reading out of a book. So thank you, Nick. So
Oh, you're muted, Corey.
sorry, I keep forgetting whether I'm muted or unmuted. So at that 2-year point, that's really where the programs diverge. So the 4-year, the Global Leadership Program, will get heavily into global leadership and take that course with Dr. Archer. The 2-year program in that second year focuses much more on collaborative strategies. So what will happen is students in the 2-year and 4-year program will come together for a workshop to explore ideas and topics for their global collaboration project. And the students in the 2-year program will be expected to contribute to that project in some way. Okay? While the 4-year students will complete the project. So often what that might look like is it might look like helping the four-year students do research, helping develop the outline for the project. So it can look lots of different ways, but I think easy ways that a two-year student might contribute to the project. Also during that year, two-year students in the Global Collaboration Program will be participating in team and collaborative strategies skill development. So those often look like workshops with professionals who help you develop how to work together with people from lots of different backgrounds. Okay. And then that final part of the two-year program, again, you will be traveling abroad together in the summer first thing. In the four-year program, that third year is intended to be beyond the classroom. So you'll be doing a long-term study abroad. And at that point, you'll feel much more independent in the program, and we'll help you explore programs that are good for you based on your academic degree program and your geographic areas of interest. The final fourth year of the program is what we call the Global Collaboration Project year. And if I could ask Dr. Zagallo-Melo actually to talk a little bit about that, because he has actually seen that fourth year play out in programs at his previous university, and so he has the end goal in mind here. So Dr. Zagallo-Melo, did you want to talk briefly about what that fourth year looks like?
Sure, thank you, Corey. In fact, the fourth year, as Corey mentioned, is where some of the program really comes alive. And that's where I think I'm gonna ask Annette to mute her. Okay, great, thank you, because we could hear some noise. So the fourth year is where I think this program actually comes alive, because by then you've had all the global challenges curriculum for the first year. You've gone abroad by then on three different occasions with the program. You've worked with your group for over a year at least, maybe 2 years. And again, this is this group work not only develops team building skills and also brings the leadership skills from year two to work, but especially it's where we see why this program is important when translated into the real world, because you will be dealing, as in your collaboration projects, you'll be dealing with real global challenges, and those and you'll be dealing with them in teams that, as was mentioned before, incorporate a biology student and a music student and an engineering student and a marketing student, working together on a global challenge, on a question that connects us. Might be an issue that you looked at here in Kalamazoo, but that obviously is connected with many other things that happen internationally. And by looking at these students, at this team or these teams of students that address a certain challenge, working together with different perspectives regarding their backgrounds, but after having gone through the same experience as a cohort, that truly shows how team building, how common experiences are important, but having different perspectives, looking at the same things, is equally important. And that's really where we see that this program is no more, no less than having the students during 4 years experiencing what they're probably going to experience professionally, academically, for the rest of their careers and for the rest of their lives. And that's why I think I always call this a model program. It's a model for education, for the future of education. It's a model for what you find in your future careers. It's a model for how you're going to be thinking for the rest of your lives, because you'll no longer think that one perspective is going to be enough when addressing a complex situation, and you'll no longer think that one experience is going to be enough in order to understand some complex questions and challenges. So this is really where we're going to see everything coming alive, and the student conferences, the showcasing of the student projects is, I'm sure, is going to be one of the favorite campus moments for this program. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Dr. Zagalo. And so currently we have students to the point of going into their third year. And so we do have Nick and Gianna who are working on a global collaboration project. They just haven't completed it yet. So they're in quite the initial stages, the topic type stage. But Nick or Gianna, do you want to talk a little bit about how, did you say you were both in the same group? Do you want to talk about how your group, the workshop that you went through with us, and what your topic is, and kind of where you are right now?
Yeah, sure. We're not super far into it right now. It's just been kind of hectic with everything that's been going on. But we know like our topic, I guess, is going to be social change based. And I know other groups are doing environmentally based challenges, and I think there's a health one as well. So I've been kind of thinking about it, just doing some research, and I don't have any concrete ideas, but I think as soon as everybody's on campus, we should definitely meet up and we'll discuss it more. So
Yeah,
I guess that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, do you all, Nick, I don't know if you want to talk about it, or Gianna, you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk about the workshop that we went through, and kind of the process we went through to kind of think about topics and what you might be working on?
Yeah, so I went to the workshop and I was able to meet everyone in the cohort ahead of me, which was super cool. And we just started like writing out on like post-it notes different like global issues and like ideas that we were just like thinking about. And then we all were able to meet up with some professors that have worked in different programs within our global leadership program, and we were able to like sort all of like the issues into like larger categories like health or education and all those kinds of things. And we were able to kind of find a group that we were willing to work with and have like one common idea and goal. And we weren't able to get super far because this was right before spring break, and then everything with COVID just kind of happened. So we were able to like have a couple brief like discussions, and we were planning on meeting in person to kind of go more in depth into it, but so far we haven't really done anything yet.
Fair enough. Story of a lot of projects right
Yeah.
now. Okay, well, at this point, let's transition over to being able to address frequently asked questions. We are getting near the end of our webinar, and we like to be respectful of your time. So let's address some of the questions that we're getting about the program, or that we often get, and then give you a couple minutes that if you all have additional questions that you can ask about, and we can, all of the people on this call as a collective unit, we should be able to answer. So I thought I could ask Annette first to talk about, I'm sorry, I will talk about first the application and registration process for the program. So you all have, if you haven't filled out the web form, that's the first stage of the process. So if you go to the website, you fill out the web form, and that doesn't mean that you're in the program and we place a $2,500 billing for the program on your student account. What that means is that you sign up and you reserve your space in the program. And then after that, we ask you to go through a commitment process. And the commitment process is where we break down the very specifics of the program, give you lots of dates, course specifics, that kind of thing, and then ask you to think about it and give you a week to commit. So there is a two-part process to reserving your spot and then registering for the program. Okay. If you have any questions about that process, or if you signed up for your spot, but you didn't get an email instructing you on how to register, please let me know, and we can either go through that together, or I can follow up with you separately. So we also get questions about the program fees and the billing payment refund schedule. So if I could ask Annette to talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Absolutely. I think Amir might have sound. Do we want to give him a second to?
Great, yes.
Okay, Amir, if you want to go ahead. Your mic is muted right now. Okay, well, we try.
Well, maybe we're all positive people. We'll keep our fingers crossed as you keep troubleshooting. But in the meantime, we'll hand it over to Annette.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, hang on one second here. Okay, so as you know, the program fees for, well, you might not know. So the program fees for the Global Collaboration Program is $2,200 per semester. And for year one of the Global Leadership Program, the program fee is also $2,200 per semester. Years 2 and 4 for the Global Leadership Program, the fee goes up to $2,500 per semester. The program cost includes all program components, so tuition, course materials, every aspect of your travel, leadership retreats, team building workshops, meals associated with these activities. No out-of-pocket expenses are required for those activities once you've paid the fee. Participants of this program are eligible, and we encourage you to apply for study abroad scholarships within the Haencike Institute. The Office of Study Abroad has a number of scholarships, and so we urge you to take advantage of those resources. And what will happen is that depending on when you sign up or commit to the program, we have certain dates from our accounts payable office as to when we can put charges on student accounts that will show up in time for the first invoice for that semester. So we'd like to get those program fees on your account within those dates, so that once you get your invoice from the university, you'll see all of the charges associated with your semester, including the Global Engagement Programs program fees. But that, like I said, depends on when you commit to the program. If you committed to the program after those dates set by the accounting office, we'll add the program fee on once you've committed and registered for your courses, and then we'll just notify you that, by the way, the program fee is now on your account, and you should go look at your student account and arrange your payment. So that will happen each semester for both the 2-year and the 4-year programs. If you are awarded a scholarship with study abroad, we encourage you to talk to financial aid if you have a financial aid package to make sure that accepting that as scholarship won't impact your financial aid at all. And we also encourage you to inform your financial aid officer about this program. You might be able to utilize some of your financial aid to go towards the program fees.
Thank you, Annette. Yeah. Yep, and in terms of how refunds work, so these charges are applied to your account, and if you choose to withdraw from the program, there is a refund policy already outlined by the university, and that's the same policy that we comply with in this program. So within the application and registration process, we do make sure you're aware of that, and you do have a certain amount of time after the semester starts even that you can withdraw for a full 100% refund. And those are things that we would keep reminding you of to make sure that that you are where you want to be inside the program. So the last frequently asked question that we're getting recently very much relates to the pandemic, and I think one thing that we all agree on in the Haencike Institute is that the pandemic has actually revealed how more than ever before how obvious it is that we are able to work cross-culturally and across borders to solve problems, right? Because this pandemic is a problem that has permeated the entire world. but it does bring up some questions related to travel and this program. And so to talk about those, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Zagalo Melo again, and have him talk briefly about how the program might adapt a bit related to pandemic concerns.
Thank you, Corey. So for the first year, and obviously the main adaptations that we might have to do are the study abroad experiences, the international trips that we have for this program. But for instance, for our first year, for both the first semester course and the second semester course, we already have teaching methodologies and types of courses that allow for a lot of flexibility in terms of meeting in person or not having to meet in person. So the fact that we will have hybrid courses will give us a lot of flexibility to adapt to what we need to do. If we can do more in person, we can easily include more in person. If we shouldn't do as much in person, we can easily move back a little bit. That's the flexibility that's offered by the methodology we have chosen for the courses in the first year. For the study abroad experience in the first year, the one that is scheduled for spring break, if for some reason we are not able to travel during spring break, we will move that first year study abroad experience to right after the semester. So right after the end of classes of spring semester, so that's usually late April, early May. If for some reason that would not even be possible, we have the whole summer as a block to see what other options, but that would be plan C at that point that we're looking at. So we have basically three scenarios, and we will work with those scenarios. And obviously we won't make decisions regarding scenarios before we have to, because in a situation where you don't know what's ahead of you, time is always on your side, because you'll have more information to make a more informed and better decision. For the second year study abroad experience, that is going to take place right after the end of classes, so also around end of April, early May. And the reason why we also look at end of April, early May for this experience is because if you want to use summer to do other things, then you can do the study abroad part of the global engagement trip part of the second year just a few days after the end of classes, and after that, after you come back from your trip, you've pretty much finished all your classes for the summer. If you want to take on, you can even take summer classes, summer one classes right away, because there won't be much overlapping or any overlapping there. And so we want to be mindful of other options that you might want to do during summer. That's why we've scheduled these for right after the second year study abroad, for right after the semester. And for third year study abroad experiences, we'll continue working with you on the best for students who, some students are supposed to go recently for those experiences. We can continue to work on with you to place those experiences in the semester that's best for you, or within a summer term as well. So, but that third year experience is already, it's not a cohort experience like year one and year two. So we already work with individual students on those year 3 experiences anyway. So it's not, we're really not changing the approach we have for that year 3 international experience, because we would have to work individually with students. For year 1 and year 2, those are cohort experiences. And so we're going with what we had planned initially, year 1, spring break, plan B, right after classes, after spring semester ends, and year 2, right after the semester ends as well. If we need to make any change to these plans that we already have in place, we still have the rest of summer, and we would work with you, with the cohorts, on reshaping what we'd have for that study abroad experience. But that's, again, it's plan B and plan C to show you that we have different scenarios and we know exactly what we should do considering certain information that we would have by then. But again, this in itself might be a global challenge that one of our cohorts might address, is how do you move these programs into the future when there's so much uncertainty worldwide? So just to show you that if you knew we needed this program before, we know now that we must have this kind of program and graduate students with these kind of skills. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Scalomelo. And I think one thing that we have often reflected on the last couple of months in our area is how innovative and how creative we've had to be, and that's actually been a little bit of a silver lining. And we've done a lot of innovating our programs to make sure that they can still occur amid all of the limitations right now, and we'll continue to do that. And there are some adaptations we've made to what we do in the Haencike Institute that we feel like we'll keep. We'll say, oh my gosh, we should have been in this headspace before this time, and making these adaptations before. So it's definitely created a more creative space on how we think about our programs and how we carry them out. At this time, I know we're over 1 o'clock, but why don't we take a couple minutes? And if you have any questions, you can feel free to add them into the chat space, or if you feel confident enough to unmute your mic and let us see your face, you can ask them to us that way. And then you're also, if you don't want to do either of those, or you don't have questions right now, but something occurs to you later, you can go ahead and send us an email, and we'll answer your question that way. So do we have any questions right now while you have all of us here in the same space at the same time?
We work crystal clear.
I guess we means we answered all questions. Well, why don't we?
We answered all questions.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in and stop us while we talk. But why don't we round out by giving Gianna, Jaden, and Nick maybe an opportunity to talk about the most interesting thing that you feel like you learned through one of your abroad experiences. And Nick, you can pick either year, and Gianna and Jaden maybe talk about the program that you did to Portugal in the spring. Maybe just a highlight or something you really reflect on often.
A highlight. I can talk about Ireland, I guess, because I'm sure they have good things to say about Portugal. But what I really liked about Ireland is just how friendly everybody was, and that kind of helped my experience. Everybody's just so cheerful, it seemed like, and they talk in their Irish accents, and it was really fun to meet the locals and hang out with them at the pubs and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a thing to look forward to, but I just love people and I love to talk to people. So for me, that was something really good.
Area. You're an anthropologist, right, Nick?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you have any anthropological observations you brought back?
Honestly, I'm really into like people and food too, which is kind of like random, but I think food is like super important for culture. And after like looking at the differences between Portugal and Ireland and stuff, it was kind of crazy to see how kind of like westernized the UK is, or at least I don't know if that means like if that's real because they're like the original Western culture, but like I guess I don't know, we got a lot of influence from them and they take a lot of influence from us. And then to go to Portugal and see how it kind of wasn't like that at all. And I know that gentrification's a problem there, but it seems like they're kind of still holding on to a lot of, you know, their original culture. And it was also kind of weird to see like a line going out the door at a Burger King in Lisbon. And it's just kind of sad, but also, you know, it's just interesting to look at for me to see how people evolve and change and the globalization factor of it, like I mentioned earlier. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
yeah.
And we do have a question from Giselle, and it looks like just some clarification that yes, so the first 2 years of the program are what we call cohort years. And so cohort means that during the courses that you take together and the study abroad programs, you'll all travel together. So for the first 2 years of both programs, all courses and all travel will happen as a group. And so Nick was just talking about the second year travel in which he traveled with all students from his year to Ireland. And then Gianna and Jaden are going to finish up with highlights from their group travel to Portugal in their first year, which actually happened just this past March. And it happened right before everything closed up. So they might have some interesting perspectives on like right before the pandemic really closed everything up. So I don't know, Gianna or Jaden, I don't know which of you would like to start.
I'll start. I have two kind of weird ones, but one is I've never had to pay for like a public bathroom, and that will always be something that like I remember because like I walked in, I thought I was gonna be like normal, and then it was like rainbow wall tissue toilet paper like all over the wall, and you could like pick. It was super weird, and that was just like a weird thing that I will never ever forget. And then the other thing was just like using public transportation, just kind of like at night, we would take the train to go from like place to place. Like, I think that was a lot of fun. And like, even though like we had no idea what we were doing, it was like fun to be able to talk to like other people on the train and just when we went to Pink Street, which is cool experience, and just being able to talk to other people that were like maybe just going for like their spring break, and that was fun. And I met like some other students who were also like studying abroad for like a semester, so we were able to like talk and just seeing how we were all there, and we were all talking about like corona too, and how it was just crazy how we came out like right at the nick of time and how it just kind of worked out perfectly for us. It was a great trip.
Thanks,
I second that.
Yeah, and I think Gianna, Jaden, and Nick would all agree that part of study abroad is the exploration and being able to explore and do things independently, and do things that you haven't done before. So Gianna, that makes sense that taking public transportation was a really educational experience, because you were exploring and figuring out new places you could go and how to get there. Jaden, do you have kind of a highlight of something that you learned?
Yeah, so my favorite part was probably we went to Pova de Mora and saw the recording studio just because I just really like recording studios. Like that's what I want to do in life. And it was cool to see like how like they essentially do like the same thing like we do here, but like differently. So like to compare and contrast that. And then the second coolest part I'd say wasn't like in Portugal, but when I got back and I was just talking to people like randomly, like I actually like met people like from Portugal, like, you know, just like out on the street, and it was cool that we got to talk about like, you know, like the great country it is and like all the similarities, and I got a free ice cream cone out of that once, and it's just really cool.
Well, the ice cream cone should be enough then to enroll in the program, huh? Um, well, thank you all. It doesn't look like we have any questions remaining. So we'll follow up with a recording of this webinar to everyone. And if other questions do occur to you, please let us know. Send us an email and we'll get back to you quickly. And then if you feel like you want to connect with students currently in the program, I'm sure Nick, Jana, and Jaden would be more than happy for me to reach out to them and connect you with them if you have any additional questions and want to talk to them about the program itself. But we really appreciate your time today. Thank you to everyone who joined the webinar. And we look forward to hearing from you and working with you in the fall.
Corey, can I just make one quick
Yes.
comment?
Yep, of course.
So to just touch base on what Jay had to say about the recording studio and COVID Demora. So one of the things, just to give students a perspective, I mean, we're not just like going out looking at recording studios, although that was super fun. But what we were looking at was this specific area in Lisbon where gentrification and urban development is forcing this particular neighborhood called Cova de Mora that's built by the Cape Verdeans out. And so this tour that we had was looking at their use of music and also how their use of music looks at racism and how things are handled within this particular community. So just a little bit of clarification on that one as well.
Thank you. Any other closing comments or thoughts? Okay, well, with that, again, we look forward to working with you in the fall. Let us know if you have any questions. And that's the conclusion of the webinar.